Climate scientists will tell you that large-scale deforestation is a major threat to the planet. And nowhere has that issue gotten more attention than in the mighty Amazon rainforest. The Amazon covers over 2 million square miles. 1/5 of all the fresh water in the world flows through its vast river basin. It is one of the richest ecosystems on the planet, thought to be home to 1/3 of the world's species. But the Amazon is also home to tens of millions of people. Cities like Santarém in Brazil were carved out of the forest by wave after wave of settlers. This city sits at the meeting of two great rivers, the Tapajós and the Amazon itself, and that geographic advantage has been attracting fortune seekers for more than a century. From miners to loggers to farmers, Santarém has seen them all. In the 1930s, Henry Ford tried his luck here, building an immense rubber plantation just a short ways upriver. He, like others who followed, saw the rainforest as little more than an obstacle standing in the way of progress. Today, of course, the importance of that rainforest is much better understood, but the central question remains: can the Amazon be protected while still allowing for jobs and growth in cities like Santarém? Environmentalists around the world are watching and hoping that conventional wisdom can be proven wrong.
There's a sort of mindset that, yeah, we regret the dirtiness of our economic development, but we're going to accept it because we need that growth, we need those jobs, we need that rise in GDP income.
David Cleary is the Director of Agricultural Strategy for the environmental group, the Nature Conservancy. Now based in Boston, Cleary worked in Brazil for more than 20 years. For most of that time, he was pessimistic about the future of the Amazon. Now, he sees reason for hope. That's because the rate of deforestation has plummeted, even as Brazil's economy is booming.
What Brazil could be in the process of demonstrating is that it is not a trade-off. We are developing at 7.5% a year. Tens of millions of our population are transiting from being working class to being middle class. We're being very successful economically, and we're doing it at the same time as we're keeping deforestation down at historically low levels.
Cleary says the future of conservation can be found right here, in the forest around Santarém. But a decade ago, the scene here was grim. An agricultural boom was underway, and tens of thousands of acres of forest were disappearing to make way for massive soybean plantations. The effects were dramatic. Just outside Santarém, the rainforest is scarred by gigantic squares of bare earth, soy farms waiting for planting season.
There was high levels of deforestation. You would drive down these roads that you were familiar with, and there'd be land cleared, that year that hadn't been cleared the year before.
To see what set off the boom, just take a walk along Santarém's waterfront. Visible from clear across town is this massive export terminal built and run by the American agribusiness giant Cargill. Each year, more than 1 million tons of soybeans are delivered here and loaded onto ships bound for Europe. And it was this one building that brought soy farming to the Amazon. Brazil has long been a world leader in soy production. Most of it is grown south of the Amazon, but when soy farmers like Luis Machado heard about Cargill's terminal, they realized that by moving closer to Santarém, they could save on transport costs and make more money.
O preço da soja é um só, a diferença dá do frete. Aqui era em torno de 8 a 12 reais por saco mais a soja do que ali no Mato Grosso, né? Nós colhemos 10 mil sacos, nós fatura bem, né?
Drawn by the economic magnet of Cargill's terminal, soy farmers flooded into the Amazon, buying up small farms, clearing forest, and planting soy. In just a few years, soy production in the area increased 20-fold, and soy farming became the #1 cause of deforestation around Santarem.
If you knew what the place had been like before and what the countryside around had been like in the 1990s, and you were up there in the early 2000s, it was clear that, this is a problem.
But this is where the story of the soy boom takes an unexpected turn. In the middle of the frenzy, deforestation around Santarem suddenly stopped, and it has remained at a standstill ever since. So, what happened? It all began in 2006, when the environmental group Greenpeace released a report titled Eating Up the Amazon. To bring attention to the disappearing rainforest, Greenpeace showed how soy from deforested land was being fed to chickens destined for one of the largest restaurant chains in the world, McDonald's. Suddenly, the entire problem of deforestation was symbolized by a chicken McNugget. Cue the protests. Activists in chicken suits took over McDonald's restaurants across the UK, demanding that the fast food giant stop doing business with Cargill. With one of its biggest customers facing a PR disaster, Cargill had little choice but to sit down with the environmentalists and find a solution.
There are many environmentally aware consumers who don't want to be encouraging deforestation. So more and more Brazilian agricultural producers and Brazilian agricultural exporters are realizing not just that it's an environmental issue, it's a competitive advantage issue for them.
Within months, Cargill and other large soy buyers agreed to stop buying soy from any land deforested after 2006. From then on, any soy farming in the Amazon would have to happen on land that was already cleared. Farmers who broke the rules wouldn't be able to sell their crops. It was called the Soy Moratorium, and it meant that, for once, economics were working for the rainforests instead of against it.
It shows that even organizations that think as differently as Cargill and Greenpeace, even they can get around a table, look at a problem, come up with something that works, and implement it.
Under the new agreement with Cargill, all soy farmers are required to register their land. Cargill and the Nature Conservancy record the exact outlines of each farm using GPS units. After that, if satellites detect any deforestation within those boundaries, the farmer is blacklisted from selling his soy. And according to the Nature Conservancy's David Cleary, advances in technology have made all this surprisingly inexpensive.
Basically what you have is an annually renewed satellite image of the region with all the soy farms plotted out. So this is a really hugely important development from the environmental standpoint. It means that the traditional objection to the companies have had to, we can't possibly monitor the 12,000 soy farmers that we buy from, it would be too expensive even if it were practical. That objection has basically evaporated over the last several years.
We asked soy farmer Luis Machado whether the new rules had curbed soy's expansion into the forest.
Mas com certeza, né? Porque se ela não legalizasse, que tivesse legal, você ia plantar tudo que é terra que aparecesse aí, né?
It's not entirely eliminated soy as a driver of deforestation, but it's driven it from second-rank importance to almost insignificance.
Now the movement is growing. After the success of the soy moratorium, the Brazilian government is attempting to apply the same approach to the biggest threat facing the Amazon, cattle ranching.
The soy moratorium provides this model. We can go to the beef sector now and say, it's not anything new that we're talking about here, it's something that was done with the soy industry. The soy industry didn't shrivel up and die because the soy moratorium was implemented, so come on. It's a much easier conversation. The second time around is always much easier than the first time around.
Cleary says that the world should pay attention to what happened in Santarem. It's an example of how the environment can be protected even in developing countries with booming economies.
This trade-off that you're imagining exists between economic success and environmental conservation, it's a false dichotomy. And that, I think, is the real importance of all of this.
If you've got it, watch it. If you don't, call your TV provider to get HDNet today.
And that geographic advantage has been attracting fortune seekers for more than a century. From miners to loggers to farmers, Santarém has seen them all. In the 1930s, Henry Ford, it is one of the richest ecosystems on the planet, thought to be home to a third of the world's species. But the Amazon is also home to tens of millions of people. Climate scientists will tell you that large-scale deforestation is a major threat to the planet. And nowhere has that issue gotten more attention than in the mighty cities like Santarém in Brazil were carved out of the forest by wave after wave of settlers. This city sits at the meeting of two great rivers, the Tapajós and the Amazon itself, an Amazon rainforest. The Amazon covers over 2 million square miles. 1/5 of all the fresh water in the world flows through its vast river basin.